Wrong mic, I'll be right back. Before we get started on the Dharma talk, please join me in invoking Buddha's name 3 times. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha Namo Shakyamuni Buddha Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. So we are starting back again after many years on the topic of the 12 links of dependent origination, which would follow our talks that we've discussed on the Four Noble Truths and Eightfold Path. The next natural progression after that is the teachings on the dependent origination, Pratitya Samutpada in Sanskrit. So essentially the dependent origination is really just a teaching about the law of causality, of cause and effect. And it's one of the it's one of the more intense teachings in Buddhism. And it's really one of the most profound and essential teachings for understanding the nature of existence, the arising of suffering, and the possibility of the cessation of that suffering to liberation. There's a famous quote by the Buddha that he said that one who sees dependent origination sees the Dharma. One who sees the Dharma sees dependent origination. And this isn't necessarily just a theoretical or philosophical theory, right? It's really about how the universe works, pretty much, right? It's direct observation of how our experience unfolds moment by moment. And it explains why we suffer, how suffering continues, and how through our wisdom and our practice that we can come to end that suffering. Because most people see or look for the cause of suffering outside of themselves, right? We may think that, oh, I suffer because of this person, or I suffer because of my circumstances are difficult, or I suffer because life doesn't give me what I want, right? But the Buddha, through this teaching, has asked us to look deeper, and he teaches that suffering is not merely something that randomly appears, that picks and chooses who wants to suffer and who wants to be happy, right? It arises through different conditions. And when certain conditions or causes and conditions come together, then certain experiences come together. So for those causes and conditions, and when those causes and conditions are removed, then those experiences cease as well. And at the heart of dependent origination, there's also a quote that says, when this exists, that becomes to be. And when this arises, that arises. When this does not exist, that does not exist. When this ceases, that ceases. So everything that we experience is dependent upon causes and conditions. So for the first insight, you'll see there's a list, 12th list, but the first insight of dependent origination is that nothing exists by itself, right? Like we've said it before, like a flower can't exist independently of itself. It requires seeds and soil, water, oxygen, sunlight, right? Proper care, and the ability for it to grow. But take out any one of those items, then the flower ceases to be. And the same thing with our body, our emotions, our thoughts, even our sense of self arises through conditions. Because the person that we call I, right, is also dependent. Our body depends on food and water and oxygen, right, a million different biological processes, right? Our thoughts depend on memories, experiences, our education, our culture, society, right, our interaction with others. And so when we start to understand this, then we begin to loosen that attachment that we have to the idea of a permanent, independent self. Because we may think that, oh, this is who I am. This is my opinion. This is my personality, right? But if we contemplate and look deeper, then we discover that what we call the self really is just a constantly changing collection of physical and mental conditions, right? It's just kind of just like a river. There's continuity in it, but the river is never exactly the same, right? The water, you can't, if you just grab a cup of water out of the river, right, and dump it back in, and take another cup, that cup of water is not the exact same cup of water you had the first time. It's the same river, but the water is a continuous flow. Likewise, this sense of self is the same way. So when we talk about dependent origination, right, the main explanation is through the 12 links. And these 12 links, or these factors, describe the cycle in which it describes the cycle through which ignorance gives rise to our suffering. So the 12 links, of course, are ignorance, volition or mental formations, consciousness, name and form, six sense bases, contact, feeling, craving, clinging, becoming, birth, old age, and death. And this cycle begins with ignorance. This is the first. However, it's not necessarily in order, right? Because if we see the traditional imagery of dependent origination, it's typically in a circle, right? We may see I think it's called the circle of life, the wheel of life. So if we look imagery at dependent origination, we'll see it in kind of a circle. Because there's no really beginning necessarily, but ignorance is first because ignorance is the main cause to our suffering and is the main cause to our rebirth. And as we've discussed before, ignorance here doesn't mean stupidity or lack of education or knowledge or anything like that, right? It's simply the not knowing of the true nature of reality, right? And it's understood under the 3 marks of existence of impermanence, suffering, and non-self, which we will probably touch base after we finish dependent origination. But because we don't see reality clearly, right, we misunderstand our experiences. And we believe that this happiness will last forever, or this possession will make me happy or complete me, or that this person must behave according to my expectations, or that this body and mind belongs to me permanently, right? So from this misunderstanding comes attachment, and from attachment comes suffering. So we can see that if you just think about if someone were to insult you or say something critical to you, right? The sound enters our ear, right? The senses link. The sound enters our ear. Then there's contact between the ear, the sound, and consciousness, right? Then a feeling arises. Oh, I feel hurt. And from that feeling, then the mind creates a story. Oh, they don't respect me, or they're trying to insult me, or I must defend myself. And then from that, craving arises, right? Oh, I want them to see me differently. I don't want them to look at me or judge me like that. And then from that craving, then clinging arises, right? That you may think, oh, I must prove myself. I have to make sure that they think of me differently or see me differently. And from that clinging, then anger can arise, resentment can arise, conflict starts arising. So a simple sound, right, has become suffering because of the chain of conditions. And so the Buddha's insight is powerful because it shows us that suffering is not created at the final stages, right? It begins much earlier. It's not like we don't have to go through the whole list of dependent origination in order to suffer, right? We can suffer right at the beginning. And everything that comes behind that, or the reason to suffer is at the very beginning, and everything that comes behind that are the causes to that suffering. But this is exactly why mindfulness is such an important and essential practice to us, because mindfulness allows us to observe the arising of experiences without immediately reacting to them. So when a feeling arises, we have to be able to recognize that this is just a feeling, right? This is a feeling. This is not my suffering. And when anger arises, we recognize that anger is present, not that I'm an angry person or this is my anger, right? And we can see that or look at that and pretty much any other feeling or emotion, right? By not attaching us to that feeling or emotion. And that way, mindfulness at least then creates space between experience and reaction. And within that space, wisdom can arise. And as we go through, this is going to be a quick overview. We'll go through them individually coming weeks. But the Buddha didn't teach dependent origination simply to explain suffering, right? He taught it because understanding the causes allows us to end suffering. Because if ignorance leads to suffering, then wisdom leads to freedom. And if craving leads to suffering, letting go leads to peace. And if clinging leads to suffering, non-attachment leads to liberation. So the opposite movement, the opposites of dependent origination is our path to liberation, is the path to eradicating these causes of suffering. Now, once that ignorance kind of disappears and goes away and you lessen that ignorance, wisdom will naturally come in its place, right? It will naturally arise in its stead. And when that wisdom arises, then mental formations start to cease. And when that craving is abandoned, then clinging disappears. And when that clinging disappears, suffering comes to an end. And this is really the meaning of nirvana, of our awakening, right? It's not a place, it's not a destination, it's not some grand fireworks show, right? It's the extinguishing of the three poisons of ignorance, greed, and anger. By extinguishing those poisons, you can say that we have a liberated mind. And once we start to understand how causes and conditions make us suffer, then we can start to actually apply it, right? Because first we have to look at the causes and conditions. We have to see what are the causes that are creating the conditions, and from those conditions create more causes and more conditions, etc., etc. But when we experience suffering, instead of asking, oh, why is this happening to me, right? We should ask, what are the causes that created this experience, right? What thoughts are contributing to the suffering that I'm going through? What attachment am I holding on to? Then if we ask those questions, then we can start to learn to cultivate better conditions, so that those first set of conditions don't even arise. Because there's no way to just randomly have a mind that is at peace, right? There's no way that you're just going to randomly wake up one day and be completely peaceful and have this life of equanimity and freedom, right? It's not going to just happen. It depends on our practice, on our meditation, on following the precepts, on, cultivating compassion and patience and loving kindness. Because just like the flower or any garden, right, it needs tending. You can't just stand in front of a garden and be like, all right, I want some flowers to grow here, and I want a tree to be here. I want some shade, I want some shrubs. Just you're like, I want it. But you're not doing anything to actually create it, right? You're just simply stating wishes. Unfortunately, we don't have a genie to just grant those wishes nonchalantly, right? There has to be work. So if you want a beautiful garden, then we have to create the causes for those conditions for the growth to come into place, right? So it requires work. And at the end of the day, dependent originations just comes down to a teaching or practice about freedom. Because it's essentially what enlightenment is. It's what liberation is. It's freedom from the causes and conditions that cause us suffering. But also teaches us that we're not trapped by our thoughts, by our emotions, or our circumstances. That everything that arises is due to conditions, and conditions can be transformed, right? Our fate isn't sealed or cemented in stone, right? It can be changed. It's the beauty of impermanence, is that it's not set in stone, right? There's ability to change, there's ability to improve, there's the ability to cultivate better conditions or causes, so that you don't allow the things to cause you suffering to actually cause you to suffer. Of course, we can't always be in control of what happens to us or around us, but we can at least cultivate enough wisdom so that we know how to respond. Because the Buddha's awakening was a direct realization to this truth, that suffering has causes, the causes can be understood, the conditions can be changed, and that freedom from those conditions is possible. So every moment of mindfulness is an opportunity to step out of the cycle of unconscious reaction and be able to step onto that path of true awakening. Okay, I'll stop talking actually. Pull through a quick overview. And then we'll go into, of course, the details of each link. Ignorance will probably be the longest, since it's a big topic all in its own. And everything else after that is, for the most part, pretty straightforward. Well, if we look at the list, right, and if we think of a situation that had caused you suffering, we can easily see just how the path to that suffering kind of, for the most part, follows the suit, right? Like I said earlier, just with the sound, with one sound that just enters your ear, goes into our consciousness, right? It creates contact with the mind. And then from that contact, we build up a feeling, whether good, bad, or neutral. And from that feeling comes craving, right? We either crave it, wanting it, or we crave the opposite of aversion. And dependent on which way we go, it can create grasping or attachment to that thing, object, people, place, or whatever. And from that attachment, we become something. We become, whether it's a title or a position or a rank or personality or whatever it may be. And that leads to the rest of the links, pretty much, right? But that's why we emphasize being mindful, and especially in difficult circumstances or in situations, right? Like anger, for instance, right? When we're in a situation that, whether we're in an argument or maybe we're even just eavesdropping on someone arguing, right? There's a lot of suffering can come from that, even if you're not directly involved, right? Think of let's say someone said something bad or insulted someone you cared about behind your back or behind their back, right? You just overheard it, right? Even that feeling, though it's not a direct attack on you, right? There's still some suffering that had come out of that. And so we always have to ask ourselves, that's why we question everything that we go through. Good, bad, neutral, it doesn't matter, right? Question everything. And if we're able to question what we're going through, what we're thinking, the process, the thinking process that we're going through, it's much easier to catch things that we know will cause us suffering or may bring us contentness or neutrality, right? Whatever it may be. But it's at the feeling link that we're able to sever the entire chain. It's the easiest link in the chain to break, right? Because we don't always have, we never have real control over contact, right? Because as soon as you see something or someone, there's contact, right? And so between contact, seeing something or someone, and it reaching the mind, right? Right after there's contact in the mind, then there's feeling about it, right? They're good, bad, or neutral. But it's between the contact and feeling that we have that room where mindfulness should be present. Because if there is mindfulness present between contact and feeling, we can then kind of control, not really control, but we can be aware of what feeling may arise. Because if you have a bad feeling, bad karma. Good feeling, good karma. No feeling, no karma. So before karma can even be created, there's room for us to put up a stop sign or a caution sign, right? But it's at this link that we can really start to be true masters of our mind. Because if we can sever the feelings and emotions that are negative or unwholesome, right, that naturally cultivates the opposite, right, of compassion, generosity, or patience. Okay, that's all I got for you today. Questions, concerns, emotional outbursts? Yes, ma'am.
Is there an order of teaching going how you choose the equal path and the sixth meters and all that? Is there an order that we should learn them in, or is it an order that they're all connected in?
They are all eventually connected, but the correct order would be the Four Noble Truths, right? Because that life is suffering, cause of suffering, the end of suffering, the path to end that suffering. The path to end the suffering is the Eightfold Path, right? And from the Eightfold Path is the way that the Eightfold Path is the way to our liberation, right? It's the way to end our suffering. And the 12 links describes why we suffer, right? And so that's the natural order of the teachings, of the foundational, fundamental teachings, the Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path, 12 Links. That would be the most correct, direct order of learning them, right? And then everything after that is pretty supplementary, right? Because it's these three teachings that will guarantee you enlightenment. Everything else is just extra, pretty much, right? It's bonus. They're bonus teachings. But Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path, and 12 Links are your three, it's like the tripod, right? It needs those three foundations, and everything else is built on top of that. The six perfections come in later. And again, like I've said, I think I've said it before, it's geared toward the bodhisattva ideal practice. But they are teaching just they're just that, just as the name implies, perfections. These are qualities to perfect in order to help us liberate ourselves in all beings. But Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path, 12 Links is your guaranteed ticket to enlightenment. And those are the three teachings I would give anyone who's kind of either starting or wanting to know where to start. Maybe not the 12 Links, because that's a pretty deep topic. But generally in the past, and I may have not done this for my most recent set of students, but in the past for my students, I would always advise them to practice the Four Noble Truths, or study and meditate on the Four Noble Truths and Eightfold Path in their first year of practice. Pretty much because you have Four Noble Truths and Eightfold Path, that's 12. So you practice and study one of the first Noble Truth for 1 month, the second Noble Truth the second month, third Noble Truth third month, and so on and so forth, until you finish the four truths and 8 factors, right? So you have one for each month. And it may seem like a long time for one, but it truly would take that long in order to truly, deeply understand and penetrate those teachings, right? Because it's not just about knowing them or learning them or understanding them superficially, right? Because I can sit here all day and say, First Noble Truth is life is suffering. All right, great. And then what? What does that mean? What's suffering? What's life, right? And so there's a lot more to just those 3 words of life is suffering, right? And so there's volumes of books on each of those items, right? And so it would take that time. It seems like a long time, but 1 month for each factor is sufficient. It may not be enough time to truly penetrate them in a way of true realization, but enough to fully comprehend or mostly comprehend it. That way you get to a point at least that you would be able to teach on it or describe it, or give like a mini teaching, or just be able to describe it to people, right? And then the second year would be the 12 links. Again, 1 link for each month. And the year after that is typically about meditation practices, but still, 4 truths, Eightfold Path, and 12 links is really all you need. Because everything else, all the other teachings, literally stems from those teachings. Every single teaching the Buddha has ever given has come from the Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path, and the 12 links. Every single teaching. Great question. Any other questions? Go for it.
It's kind of unrelated, but we talked about life. So in the Buddhist perspective, is life from when you're born, or is it when you're conceived, when you're born? Would that be considered the start of your life?
Say what?
Republican versus Democrat political. In some Asian countries, you consider the first year, like when you're born, one year old.
Right.
So,
Right. There is a sutra actually on this that I can't think of the name. I think it's actually called the Womb, the Sutra of the Womb. Where it describes that life begins at conception, at the contact of sperm and egg. I personally do not believe that, but I believe historically, if I remember the sutra correctly, I believe that's the correct definition of when life begins, is at contact of sperm and egg. I'm going to put a question mark next to this and double check for you, but if I remember correctly, that's when. But I take that even a step further, or maybe not further, maybe further back, but even I would even consider life to be life even when one is born, right? Because when you're an infant, right? Yeah, you have consciousness, but you have no true awareness or understanding of anything, right? And depending on how you would describe consciousness, right? Whether it's knowing language, knowing how to speak or communicate or understand or comprehend, right? Depending on how you want to justify consciousness. It could be someone who's several years old. It could be someone who's 100 years old, right? Some people don't have the mental capacity to speak or to understand, right? They're whether they have mental or psychological issues, right, that could prevent them from ever being able to speak or communicate or understand. So then would we consider that life, right? Would we consider that true consciousness? And so it can really be any way, shape, or form of wanting to understand that. That's just my own opinion. But
just life in general, right? Not necessarily consciousness, just you're alive as a person.
then I would say at birth. Because if you're in the womb, are you a person yet?
I think it's, I have a question maybe that will answer this. I'm from the death. So if I give you one example about we have to examine death. And you said like, you talk about peace, that peace doesn't come on itself. You have to work, you have to do something, you have to act, it won't come by itself. When somebody dies, it's a very peace. They are in peace. Are they really in peace?
Yeah. Well, we can ask another follow-up question to that question. What is peace?
Peace is not nirvana, right? Nirvana is like understanding the examples, right? Peace is not a thing. Peace is something like it's something that is kind of glorified. Like happiness,
right.
Peace, or
right.
So we are like attracted to this. But nirvana, you don't have you have no peace or happiness or but peace is the state of mind where you are just relaxed and you are not
suffering.
You're not worrying, you're
Right.
You have no desire or things like that, but let's come to one thing. It's not the final destination.
Right. I think peace is more or less the peace is more like the map, right? You use the map in order to get to your destination, right? And peace is the way to get to nirvana, because peace itself is also the result of causes and conditions, right? And it's a result of the absence of the causes and conditions that cause you to suffer. That's what peace is, right? It's the opposite of suffering, right? It's the absence of suffering, right? But the absence of something is still something, right? Whether you have a full glass or an empty glass, there's still a glass. There's still something, whether it's air or water or whatever it's filled in. There's always something. So peace isn't the final destination, right? But it is the way in order to help us get to that final destination, which is nirvana, or enlightenment, which is the absence of anything and everything. It is the absence of both peace and suffering. It's the absence of happiness and unhappiness. It's the absence of thinking and non-thinking. Right? It is true freedom from everything, good and bad.
So that is a peace. Like the belief is something. It not to a certain level.
Well, I mean, when you're dead, you're dead. I mean, you wouldn't know that you're at peace or suffering.
People say they're in peace. Everybody says.
Right? They're like, oh, they're resting in peace. Who knows? Who knows? Right? We don't know what happens after we die. Right? We have teachings, we have stories, and we have interpretations, but that's a tricky topic. Say what?
Rest in peace is the illusion.
It's an illusion. It's an illusion for the living, because it makes the living feel better. Oh, my mother passed. May she rest in peace. Right? That's really just a way of comfort for the living. Right? That person's dead. They can't feel joy or pain or suffering or happiness anymore anyway. So when we, like the same way when we pray for the dead, right? We're not doing it for the dead. They're gone. They don't care. But we do it for the living, to help the living remember that in life that there is happiness, in their life there is suffering, right? And depending on how we live it, how we react to things, how we want to behave and treat ourselves and treat others, these will help us have a good life or a bad life, right? And so when we pray for the dead, it's not for the dead, actually. It's really for the living. And so it's just a way to comfort people. The dead's dead, for all we know.
So we know it's not coming to people, but we know that people have the story in all of stories. People in Rome, they have learned something. They come out and they after knowing that I don't know, but there are a lot of stories. I don't know if they're true or not, but usually they tell a lot of stories. They learn something from 9 months old.
Mm.
So they have something to do with God. And whatever their father was telling them, their mother or stories or whatever, they were listening.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know all of that, but we do know that there is something that in their life.
Yeah, I mean, we can look at stories and instances of children that are like prodigies at like 1 or 2 or 3 years old, right? They're like a virtuoso to a violin. They know how to play violin at 3 years old, or the piano, or they know math really well, right? Those are prodigies of some sort. We're like, oh, they must have been prodigy in a past life. They must have been an expert or a master violinist or mathematician in a past life, right? I'm not going to go into that, but
But there's also like that's what I mean. They conceive before birth.
Mhm.
That's what I think some certain countries they celebrate China
Mhm.
or maybe Korea. They have a day of birth when they conceive.
I think it's at this point it's more cultural, right? Like you said in Korea, you're one year after you're born, right? It's not you're not. Oh wait, it's one year after you're born.
I know in Korea they celebrate the first one babies after being born. I guess Korean age, so like when they're born, they're considered born. So like they're actually.
That's right. That's right. I had it backwards. Right.
Being physically born.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. I don't think it doesn't matter when you would consider when life is life.
One thing is it helps you understand whether or not people have after that physically they have something. So it's kind of like they want to research something or figure it out and see if you can reverse it or something. When you were born, or they have some awareness versus when they're dead. Yes, it's just
I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think that still matters much because your suffering or your cause of suffering is still everything in the present moment, right? So that's all you need to worry about. Since we really can't, once we're enlightened, know our past lives or anything like that, or future lives or anything like that, then all you do have control or worry over is the present, right? And so I think asking those kind of questions just causes more questions, right?
well, like you give the example of when we were exploring the take the water and just had no idea. So for people it's good, like it's thinking on no idea. But people or the environments to eat the river, it has some certain tendency to flood, right? It's kind of terrain, it goes up and down. Certain nature, certain beautiful media, maybe stop me or but even though it doesn't have, I think it does have some phenomena and for others. And I understand when the river doesn't catch itself, it doesn't have any people think it's, but somebody might have catch it. I don't know. This river like this.
Right.
And that see for himself. But it still has this identity in of this.
Yeah, but also has conditions, causes and conditions that created that phenomena, right? Like think of the flow of rivers. The water in it of itself didn't necessarily create the shape of the river, right? It depended on weather, dependent on terrain, dependent on location, all this other stuff. And so at that point, do we say the river created its shape, or did the environment and the things around it create its shape, right? So there's no independence in the river of itself. And it's how we should look at our own lives and our own causes and conditions, right? Like, yeah, we may have this personality, this identity, but it was all created because of other conditions. And if we see it and see everything else in that way, then we have a less or a smaller tendency to attach, right, and crave it to be something else or stay the same or whatever it may be.
So that is this question, when somebody is bad, it's not him, the environment or the person there.
Right.
Everybody, not just that person.
Right. Right. Yeah. We're an a-hole because other people cause you to be an a-hole, pretty much. Right? I mean, really, it's. We don't want to assume that or think like that, but it's true. I mean, think of walking past the Gucci store, right? If before walking past the Gucci store, you've never known of Gucci, never heard of it, you don't know what they look like, you don't know what the brand is, you don't know anything about it. You don't even know the word, you've never seen the words, you've never seen anything of it. And then as soon as you pass it and you see this Gucci bag, right, you're like, ooh, that's a pretty bag. All of a sudden, you have contact with that, and now you have a desire and a craving for that. So every time you see a bag, you're like, oh, it's not a Gucci bag, or I want a Gucci bag, right? You have now some connection with Gucci, right? And now you have suffering or happiness or non-happiness or whatever other thing that comes from it. But if you've never had contact with it in the first place, any good, bad, or neutral feeling you've ever had of it would have never also existed, right? So that's the same thing with our own personality, our way of seeing things, whether you're a nice person or a mean person, it's because of other conditions and all other contact you've come in with that has molded and shaped your personality, your perceptions, your ideologies, right? Your biases, your discriminations, your likes and dislikes. They didn't just magically pop into your head. No, you have been conditioned your entire life to be someone, right? You have a name, right? You have a gender, maybe you have a title, maybe you have a rank, maybe you have anything else. All these things have been created for you. And if they were created for you, then who actually are you? If all these things were given to you, or you've worked for them, if you've taken all that away, what's left? That's the ultimate question. Okay. That will be the end of this overview. Please join me in invoking the Buddha's name 3 times, and then we'll go to chanting. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha Namo Shakyamuni Buddha Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Any positive karmic action we've accumulated here today, we wish to transfer the merit to all sentient beings and wish them full enlightenment. We'll just be doing the general chant today, so page 7. Peace, speech, and mind in perfect oneness, I send my heart along with the sound of the bell. May the hearers awake from forgetfulness and transcend all anxiety and sorrow. Listen, listen, this wonderful brings me back to my true home. Gratitude we offer this incense to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas throughout space and time. May it be fragrant as earth, reflecting our careful efforts, our wholehearted mindfulness, and the fruit of understanding. Slowly ripening, may we and all beings be companions of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May we awaken from forgetfulness and realize our true home. Incense in the censer now is burning, all the Dharma realm in every place, auspicious clouds appearing, our sincere intention thus fulfilling, as all Buddhas now show their perfect body, homage to the incense cloud canopy, Bodhisattva and great Bodhisattvas. To the eternally abiding Buddhas, the supreme Dharma and sagely Sangha throughout the Dharma realm and the realm of empties and 3 periods of time. To the fundamental teacher Shakyamuni Buddha, Maitreya, honored future Buddha, Manjushri, great wisdom, Bodhisattva, universal great conduct, Bodhisattva, all Dharma guarding Deva Bodhisattva, and the glorious mountain assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. To Amitabha Buddha in the land of ultimate bliss, Avalokiteshvara, great compassion Bodhisattva, great strength Bodhisattva, restored great vow Bodhisattva, and the assembly of great pure sea light Bodhisattvas. compassionate Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Ratnatrayaya Namo Aryavarokitish Paraya Bodhisattvaya Mahasattvaya Mahakarunikaya Om Sarvaravaye Sodanadasya Namaskritvayi Mamarya Padokiteshvararam Dava Namo Narakindi Hri Mahavaswami Sarvaharatu Shobham Ajiyam Sarvasattva Namo Vasava Namo Bhagavitato Taryatha Om Avaloke Lokate Karate Hiri Mahabodhisattva Sarva Sarva Malamala Mani Mani Hridayam Koro Koro Kamam Doro Doro Vishati Mahavishati Dara Dara Nirinishvaraya Chara Chara Mama Vimala Bhoktilehi Shina Shina Asham Prashari Visha Vishram Prashaya Holo Holo Mara Holo Holo He Sara Sara Siri Siri Soro Soro Hiya Bodhiya Bodhaya Bodhaya Maitreya Narakindi Vishayena Vayamana Swaha Siddhaya Swaha Mahasiddhaya Swaha Siddhayogeshwaraya Swaha Narakindi Swaha Maranara Swaha Sirasimamukaya Swaha Sarva Mahasiddhaya Swaha Chakra Siddhaya Swaha Padmakasaya Swaha Narakindi Vagalaya Swaha Mavadi Sankaraya Swaha Namo Ratnatrayaya Namo Arya Palokiteshvaraya Swaha Om Siryanto Mantrapadaya Swaha. Body is bringing morning light and concentration. My heart is at peace. A half smile is born on my lips. This is a new day, and I vow to go through mindfulness. The sun of wisdom has risen, shining in every direction. Noble Sangha diligently bring your mind into meditation. Namo Shakyamunaye Buddhaya. Namo Shakyamunaye Buddhaya. Namo Shakyamunaye Buddhaya. Unsurpassed, profound, and wonderful Dharma is difficult to encounter in hundreds of millions of eons. I now see and hear it, receive and uphold, and I vow to fathom the Tathagata's true meaning. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni master is an echo for refuge. Light in the 10 directions, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, to whom we bow in gratitude. Living the way of awareness in the very midst of suffering and confusion, Shakyamuni Buddha, the awakened one, to whom we bow in gratitude. Through ignorance awakening our hearts and our minds, Manjul Shri, the Bodhisattva of great understanding, to whom we bow in gratitude. Mindfully working joyfully for the sake of all beings, Samanta Bhadra, the Bodhisattva of great action, to whom we bow in gratitude. To suffering serving beings in countless ways, Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of great compassion, to whom we bow in gratitude. Awakening and loving kindness in children, sprouts, and all beings, Maitreya, the Buddha, to be born, to whom we bow in gratitude. The way fearlessly and compassionately, the stream of all our ancestral teachers, to whom we bow in gratitude. Mud is deep and lovely, we now have a chance to see it and practice it. We vow to realize its true meaning. Bodhisattva Avalokita, while moving in the deep course of Prajnaparamita, shed light on the 5 skandhas and found them equally empty. After this penetration, he overcame ill-beingness and Shariputra. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form, form is not of emptiness, emptiness is not other than form. The same is true with feelings, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. Listen, Shariputra, all dharmas are marked with emptiness. They are neither produced nor dished, neither defiled nor immaculate, neither increasing nor decreasing. Therefore in emptiness there is neither form nor feelings, no perception or mental formations or consciousness, no eye or ear or nose or tongue or body or mind, no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no object, no realms of elements, no interdependent origins, and no extinction of them, no ill-being, no cause of ill-being, no end of ill-being, and no path, no wonders. Amen. Because there is no attainment, the Bodhisattvas grounded in Prajnaparamita find no obstacles for their having no obstacles. They overcome fear, liberating themselves forever from illusion and realizing perfect nirvana. All Buddhas in the past, present, and future arrive at Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Therefore one should know perfect understanding is the highest mantra, the unequaled mantra, the destroyer of ill-being, the incorruptible truth, the mantra. Prajnaparamita should therefore be proclaimed. Gate gate para samgate bodhi swaha. Gate para samgate bodhi swaha. invoke your name, Avalokiteshvara. We aspire to learn your way of listening in order to help relieve the suffering in the world. You know how to listen in order to understand. We invoke your name in order to practice listening with all our attention and open-heartedness. We will sit and listen without any prejudice. We will sit and listen without judging or reacting. We will sit and listen in order to understand. We will sit and listen so attentively that we will be able to hear what the other person is saying and also what is being left unsaid. We know that just by listening deeply, we already alleviate a great deal of pain and suffering in the other person. Your name, Anjul Shri, we aspire to learn your way, wishes to be still and to look deeply into the heart of things and into the hearts of people. We will look with all our attention and open-heartedness. We will look with unprejudiced eyes. We will look without judging or react. We will look deeply so that we will be able to see and understand the roots of suffering through the impermanent and selfless nature of all that is. We will practice your way of using the sword of understanding to cut through the bonds of suffering, thus freeing ourselves and other species. Your name, Samanta Bhadra, we aspire to practice your vow to act with the eyes and heart of compassion, to bring joy to one person in the morning and to ease the pain of one person in the afternoon. We know that the happiness of others is our own happiness, and we aspire to practice joy on the path of service. We know that every word, every look, every action, and every smile can bring happiness to all. We know that if we practice wholeheartedly, we ourselves may become an inexhaustible source of peace and joy for our loved ones and for all species. Your name, Shuddhi Karma, we aspire to learn your way of being present where there is darkness, suffering, oppression, and despair, so we can bring light, hope, relief, and liberation to those places. We are determined not to forget about or abandon those in desperate situations. We will do our best to establish contact with those who cannot find way out of their suffering, those whose cries for help, justice, equality, and human rights are not being. We know that hell can be found in many places on earth. We will do our best not to contribute to create more hells on earth and to help transform the hells that already exist. We will practice in order to realize the qualities of perseverance and stability, so that like the earth we can always be supportive, faithful to those in need.
refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way. In this life I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and of love. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community that lives in harmony and awareness. In the refuge of Buddha, I clearly see the path of light and beauty. In the dwelling in the refuge of Dharma, I learn to open many doors on the path of transformation. Dwelling in the refuge of Sangha, shining light thus supports me, keeping my practice free of obstruction. Refuge in the Buddha, in myself I aspire to help all people recognize their own awakened nature, realizing the mind of love, taking refuge in the Dharma. In myself I aspire to help all people fully master the ways of practice and walk together on the path of liberation. Taking refuge in the Sangha, in myself I aspire to help all people build fourfold community, to embrace all beings and support their transformation. Citing the sutras, practicing the way of awareness gives rise to benefits without limit. We vow to share the fruits with all beings. We vow to offer